Reno Terakartni.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker. Ngati toa rangatira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. E aku mātua, e aku whanaunga, whakatau mai, whakatau mai, whakatau mai. Whakatau mai ki te whare pāramata e takatū nei. Āpiti hono tātai hona, ko te hunga wairua ki a rātou. Āpiti hono tātai ono, ko te hunga ora ki a tātou. Tēnā koutou, a tēnā tātou katoa. Mr. Speaker, let me start with a well-known pepeha of Ngati toa. Ko Ngati toa te tuatahi, ko Ngati koata te tuarua, ko Ngati rārua te tua toru. This pepeha is to denote the mana of Ngati toa and their tūhapu of koata and rārua. It is an historical link to the way things were in the past, when Ngati toa had to explain to the Crown their relationship to the land and hapu of Te Tauihu. We all know that they've all advanced to be the iwi they are today, but it's the historical link. Mr. Speaker, with that in mind, let me declare my own personal stake in the history of Ngati toa, because anyone who knows my family's history will know me as a Pautini Ngaitahu. But not many people know the connection to Ngati toa through my ancestor Niho, who was a chief of Ngati Rārua, and who, along with the other chiefs of the invading alliance of Toa, Koata, Rārua, Tama and Atiawa, crossed Raukawa Moana and fought with the local Ngati Kuia, Ngati Apa and Rangitane. From Te Tauihu, my ancestor pushed through the west coast, making war and in search of the highly prized Pounamu. My Kaitahu ancestor Tuhuru was a clever man, and in an effort to protect his people, he took the prudent step of negotiating a peace deal with the Ngati Rārua by offering his daughter, Nihorere, as a wife for Niho. This was accepted, and so Tuhuru and his family spent 5 years at Taitapu as guests of Niho and the Ngati Rārua. The particular branch of the union of Tuhuru's daughter, Nihorere, to Niho are known as the Takawainga family, which in times of raru were used to remind the tribes of Pautini Ngaitahu and Ngati Rārua of that shared history. Sir, if February 6th, 1840 is this nation's birth date, then the events of 1839 must surely be the conception and gestation period of our country. Before the treaty and Governor Hobson, New Zealand was a lawless land. No real civil law and definitely no land courts. The country and its tangata whenua were susceptible to unscrupulous land dealers. The arrival of the New Zealand Company in 1839 is the crux of the troubles in Te Tauihu. In 1839, Ngati toa were a powerful tribe situated on the northern side of Raukawa Moana and also had interests in the Tauihu as well. Ngati toa signed the Kapiti deed, which purportedly gave up their interests in 20 million acres between Taranaki and North Canterbury. The oral translation of the English deed did not convey its meaning and effect. More misunderstandings and shady deals were to occur. 1843 and the Waido affair. Rangihaiata's rebellion in the Hutt Valley in 1845 and eventual exile to Porou Tawhao. Te Rauparaha's illegal arrest and detainment in 1846. Sir, the arrest of Te Rauparaha was a master stroke for Governor Grey and the Crown. Totally illegal and on trumped-up charges. Grey used the detention of Te Rauparaha as leverage to wrest land from the Ngati toa estate. The remaining chiefs of Ngati toa had little option but to offer up land at Porirua and Waido and to have reserves set aside. Ngati toa had interests at Port Nicholson, Waido and Wakatu, but their interests weren't acknowledged in the likes of the Wellington and Nelson tents. There were further, more modern-day mamae to add to the list of grievances. In 1948 and 1960, the Public Works Act stole hundreds of acres of land from families to build housing. Some of that land has never been used, but is now tied up in the Crown's hands. In this bill, sir, the Crown will apologise to Ngati toa for their failure to uphold the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi. Apologise for Te Rauparaha's illegal detention. Apologise for pressuring other chiefs of Ngati Toa to sign away the land for Te Rauparaha's release. They will also apologise for failing to ensure Ngati Toa retain sufficient land for their future needs. There are deeds of recognition, overlay classifications acknowledging areas of significance and association, Kapiti Island, the Brothers, Tom's Rock, and the Wairau Lagoon, to name a few. There is, of course, the cultural, commercial and financial redress. And Mr. Speaker, there are many people who have helped to advance this claim to where we are today, but I would particularly like to acknowledge Tiratu Williams, who is the last of the original claimants for Ngati Toa, who I understand is in the gallery today. And so, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to move on to the Haka. This bill has been put in place so as to acknowledge Te Rauparaha as the composer of the Haka and of Ngati Toa's guardianship of or kaitiakitanga of this taonga. It sets guidelines on how this Haka can and should be used in a commercial and non-commercial world. This Haka kamate, Mr. Speaker, is by default this country's national Haka. It's the first Haka to be taught to children of school age. It's the first Haka I was taught. And I remember when we first moved up from the South Island to Wellington, my father taking me out to Takapuahia and then Mark Metikingi, he taught me as a 5-year-old. It is the Haka of our national team, our rugby team, and of our Olympic and Commonwealth Games representatives. Other national sporting teams have used it in an international level. The Haka, sir, has reverberated around the battlefields of the world, not just during the Māori civil and land wars, but also places like Gallipoli, in North Africa during the First and Second World Wars, even in more modern theatres such as Iraq and Afghanistan. So it's been performed by ordinary Kiwis doing their OEs, sometimes in a drunken manner, and it's even been performed poorly, I might say, by British pop stars. But sir, when I think of this mighty Haka, and I think of my whanaunga of Ngati Toa, what I think about is I think of running up and down the basketball court with Taku Pārai and Danelle Winera, waiting for that pass so I can get the easy layup. I'll tell you, sir, it really came. It's hard to get a ball off a Ngati Toa hoopster, sir, even if you're on their team. Sir, this Haka also reminds me of one of Ngati Toa's greatest living exponents of the Haka, none other than Uncle Nelson Solomon. Surely one of this country's greatest storytellers, truthful or not. Kia ora, Uncle. And Uncle Nelson told me one night after a few drinks in Nelson of his exploits on the basketball court, and how he and John Arthur were the best point and shooting guards combo that Ngati Toa has ever seen. He then reminded me of it again on the drive from Wakatu over to Waikawa, just to reinforce the point. And when I think of the Haka, sir, I am reminded of my basketball mates I ran with back in the day, whether we were on the same team or playing against each other. And I think of names such as Pārai, Winera, Hippolyte, Solomon, Kenny, and Parata. And let's not forget the Kātenes. And I acknowledge Rahui here, wonderful that you're here. And the Arthurs, and the Kohe-Loves, and the Metekingis. And I'd like to thank the many families of Ngati Toa that allowed Taku and Danelle and some of the other whānau to join the Ratana Church, even if it was for only one midweek basketball game. Sir, when I think of these wonderful people, I think about the everydayness of the Haka, how it's performed every day. Ngati Toa at births, deaths, marriages and 21sts. If there's a meeting of Ngati Toa anywhere in this country or anywhere in the world, you can guarantee there'll be a stirring performance of Te Rauparaha's famous composition at the end of the speeches. Today, the descendants of Te Rauparaha are here and Ngati are here, and once the debate is finished, sir, I'm sure we'll be treated to a very special extended version of theirs and this country's most famous haka. Mr. Speaker, I commend these bills to the House. Kia ora no tātou.
Mr. Speaker.
Denise